Heidi ho, my crafty friends. How are you today? I hope you're doing well. So today, I thought we would start a new journal. May is coming up. Can you believe it? Can you believe it? I can't believe it. So this journal is going to be a 5x7, and we are going to cover it with some paper. So I'm making it just out of a cereal box. Out of my, here, I'll show you what's left in my cereal box. There we go. Frosted Cheerios. Now you know my favorite cereal box. Actually, that's my husband. One of my husband's favorites, not mine. I eat Life, in case anybody out there has inquiring minds, my favorite cereal is Life. So I cut down my cereal box. What you have to do is you have to open up your cereal box so that it's flat. And then you cut off all these little bits and pieces like this. You know, your side trims, your top pieces that look like this. Now, I saved mine. As you can tell, I saved all my bits and pieces. And they're gonna look like this. Your side pieces are gonna look like this. So you're gonna have your sides, you're gonna have your top piece, you know, you're gonna have all those. So what I do is I take my scissors and I cut my little flaps like this. Now, I tend to save my little flaps because I like to use them as tabs. And then I glue the front of the box and the back of the box. I glue it together like this, just in a sandwich. And then I put it under something heavy. I put mine under 2 books and under my craft mat. And I've let it sit for, actually it sat for 2 days because I wanted to make sure that it was nice and flat. And completely dry. Well, hello, Baxter. Hello, Baxter. Baxter came to visit everybody. I wanted to make sure that it was nice and dry and flat. And then you cut the size that you want. Now, you're going to have to use a knife or you're going to have to use scissors that are really, really sharp because between the glue and the 2 layers of your cereal box, this gets really dense. So make sure that you're comfortable using your craft knife, okay? Either a craft knife or a knife like this. And use a metal ruler. Don't use a plastic ruler. So measure the size of your journal that you'd like. Now, I wanted to make a small journal. I love 5x7 journals. I just love them. They're my favorite size. They're small, they're easy to deal with, and you don't have those huge white pages, you know, that you have to contend with. So also glue together your side pieces, these pieces. Cut them the same length as that you want your journal to be. So if you want to make an 8x10 journal, then you want to take your side pieces and you want to cut those, you know, or you don't even have to cut them yet. Just take your side panels, your front panel, you know, that has all your calories and all that on it, and then take your other side panel and glue it together and do the same thing. Don't worry about this stuff because once you glue it together, it'll be flat. And excuse me. And also glue it flat. Excuse me. Glue it flat at the same time because you're going to have to cut it to match your journal. Okay? For the length and the width. So you're going to need several pieces. You're going to need the body of your journal. You're going to have to cut your front of your journal, the back of your journal, and the spine of your journal. So I cut 5 by 7 for my front, 5 by 7 for my back. I cut a 7-inch spine that is 1.5 inches wide. Okay, so let's do this again. I have a 5 by 7 inch front, a 5 by 7 inch back, and a 1.5 inch spine that's 7 inches long, all from one cereal box. And it's 2 layers thick. I think you can see it here. You can see it a little bit here, right through here. Sorry, I've got vintage photo ink all over my hands. You can see it a little bit through there. You can see the blue. Okay? That's where I've glued it together. So you could even take this and fold it in half if you want to make a mini journal and glue it together like that. And then put this under something flat, you know, to hold it down flat, to let it dry. It has to dry completely. And I'm not talking an hour. I'm talking 24 hours. Because it has to dry completely. And being a shiny surface, it takes a while, okay? So, now that we're dry, we have to put our book together, okay? And I think I'm kind of sort of decided this is the paper that I want to use to cover my book. I'm not going to use fabric to cover it, but on the inside, I am just going to use what I call recycled paper. I'm going to use magazine pieces. I'm going to use, pages. I'm going to use coffee dyed paper. I'm going to use envelopes. I'm going to use things like that. I'm going back to what I started with. I'm not going to use cardstock in this journal. I'm just going to go back to what I started with. So, but I think I am going to cover it with paper. So I'm thinking that this is the paper that I'm going to cover it with. I'm thinking this is going to be the front and that might be the inside. Maybe. That's kind of giving me a headache. But I don't have enough of this, I don't think, to do the inside. I don't think. Maybe I do. Maybe. Maybe. I could do this little piece. I could do that little bristly piece there for my spine. But I really like those bumblebees and I want to use that for the outside. So, but first we have to make it. So let's get it made. Let's get it all put together. What you doing there, buddy? Baxter wants to watch us. Okay, so to make our journal from, and like I said, this is just a cereal box, and I'm going to use my mat for placement of everything. So I'm lining everything up, and I'm going to use my clear duct tape, okay? And I'm going to use my craft knife. I'm lining everything up on my craft mat. So I'm squaring up my front and my back. And I'm scooching everything together. Just like this. Okay. Now, you see that line I'm leaving between them right here? Now, one of the things you have to remember to do when you make a journal is it has to be able to open and close. That's very important, of course. So, what I like to do when I create a journal cover is I take off a piece of paper and I don't ever cut my tape on the mat that I'm going to tape it on. Because if it gets stuck, I'm stuck. So I always use a different mat. That way I can cut and I'm not stuck someplace else. I I can put it over here and be prepared. Maybe. I don't have enough room now. But this is just my method. You don't have to use my method, of course. So, I'm going to take my spine and I'm going to lay my tape down. Now, I haven't pulled it off of the roll. I'm just laying my tape down. And I'm laying my spine so that it's halfway into my tape. Okay? Right there. It's halfway into my tape. And I roll my tape out. Now, I want to make sure you can see what I'm doing, so hold on. See this piece right here? This is an important piece. So remember that. And then I'm going to take this piece and I'm going to stand it up. And I got to hold my tape down here. This is the hard part about using tape because it sticks to everything. I need to make sure that I can fold my book. Okay, so I'm not lined up right. You need to line up to the top and the bottom of your spine. Right there. Come on. Oh, this tape is so sticky. And then lay it down. Okay. And then bring this piece up. This little piece, bring it up. Now roll this up. Okay, good. And then bring this over. Okay, now put your other mat underneath here and just cut your tape off. And just leave it stick to your other mat. Okay, now make sure that you can still fold. Okay, now you can do the same thing on this side. You're going to line this up. Pull your tape out. It's not hard, it's just really sticky. Now put the other half of your spine down. It's just really sticky. It's not hard to do. It's just so stinking sticky. And you're going to line this up to the other side. Now I'm standing it up so I can make sure I have a space. Okay, so that I'm sure I can, I can go like this. And then I'm laying it down. And I'm making sure before I lay it down. Okay, and then I lay it down. And see the little space that it gives me right there? And then I can fold that up and hold it still. There. While I do this, and then nothing moves. That's why that bottom little piece is important, because it gives you that first hold there. And then you can go on and stick it down to your second mat, and it doesn't make your first mat sticky and gooey. It doesn't make your work mat sticky and gooey. There. Now, your work mat is not sticky and gooey from your tape. So, pick your tape up. Before you put it away, fold under the top. Fold under a top piece. If you don't, it disappears. There, you're done with your tape. Now, check this before you do the following step. Make sure it opens and closes freely. Take your bone folder, go up the middle, down the sides, flip it over, and do the same thing. Okay, now as you can kind of sort of maybe see, I've already marked where the holes are going to be back here. So I can take, and I can go on and punch my center hole. Maybe if I can see it. It's going to get covered, but at least I can feel it. There's my center hole. That's where my center hole is going to be. So now when I put my paper down, I'll at least be able to feel that hole. And I can do the same thing at the top. Come on, guys, get out of there. Because I already know that my center is just being covered with paper. So as soon as I cover this, good gravy, I know I'm just covering this with paper, so I'll be able to feel those. And I can just punch right through them. Now, the only one I can't reach with that is this center one here. I can't reach that one. But I could take out my big bite, and I will be able to reach it. Now, if you're going to round your corners on your journal, now's the time to do that. Because you can't do it once you cover it with paper. But you can round the corners of the paper if you choose to do that. So let's go on and cover it with our paper. So the first thing that you want to do is, this is my front because I've already got this on here. Now it can go this way. Now I already marked the top on here. This is my top, but let's see. It goes this way the best. Okay, so now you can decide which way does it go the best. It goes this way the best. Okay, so this is my inside. This is my outside. So I want to do the outside first. So this paper I'm going to need to cut. Now I could do one whole page all the way across, but it doesn't give me enough to wrap around the inside a little bit like I like to do. So I'm going to measure it up here. Now, you don't have to wrap it around the edges, but if you don't, then you have bare edges showing. So I am going to measure it up here just a little bit. And to give me the amount that I want to measure it up, I'm gonna rough it to see how much is it gonna take to come up and over. So I can kind of get an idea. All right, so how much is this? This is about 1 inch up. So I'm going to cut my paper. I'm going to cut this paper. Oops. I'm going to cut this paper. Do I have a direction on here? No. 9 inches long. So I do have 2 pieces of this. So let's take this piece and let's cut this piece also. Now I won't need the whole piece of this, but I want to go on and get it cut while we have the paper cutter out. Okay. Now, after we do this, we're going to have to let everything dry before we can do anything else. All right, so we're just going to make our, we're just going to cover it today. Now, here's our glue for that. So we're just going to cover it today, and then we will come back in our next video, and we will add our signatures. Okay, so this is here. Yeah. Okay, so this is the side we're working on. All right, so I want to move this over here so I can, and I want to move it up so I can fold it up. Ooh, this is thicker paper than I thought it was. All right. All right, I'm going to use my little baby scoreboard here and see if I can't give myself 1 inch. This is pretty thick paper. To fold this on. Yeah, it's better. Okay, so that should also give me 1 inch up here. Hello, Baxter. Okay, here we go. Now let's fold this side. Okay, so there's the areas to come over the top and the bottom. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut the slits here. Yeah, that'll work. Now, let's see, we're going to do in the middle, where is it? This piece. So for this piece, we have an 1.5 inch spine. We need a 3-inch piece in the middle. So let's do a 3-inch piece for the middle. 3-inch by 7. Okay. Okay, sorry guys, I had to take the boys out. Okay, and then I forgot to turn the camera back on. Okay, so what I did was I folded these tabs here in the middle. I trimmed them down so that they weren't covering the holes here. And then I angle cut the corners and folded this over. And that was when I realized I didn't turn on the camera. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to glue this down. Maybe, maybe not. Let me get a hold of my pin here. My glue has not liked me today. Come on. I am going to glue this down. Let me open the clamp drawer here. Okay. Going to put some clamps on this. I always do my sides first and then I do my top and bottom. And to get that side to bend, what I did was I took my bone folder and I just followed the edge like that. And I made sure that this would fold. And then I folded this up. Oops. I took my big one and I just ran it along the edge. I'm not worried about the inside because the inside's going to be covered. I just wanted to cover this edge. That's all I'm looking for. Okay, I'm going to run some glue down here. I'm going to put some glue in there, and I'm going to hold that down with some clamps here for a minute while I glue the top and the bottom. Okay, now I'm going to glue the top here. And I'm also making sure that it stays down. Okay, and the whole time I'm bending my paper out here, you know, to make sure my fibers out on this paper are stretching. Now I'm going to do the bottom. Okay, so right here, I just need to trim this piece here a little bit. I must not have cut straight. There we go. And I'm going to have to check over here and make sure I don't need to do that. Looks like I do in this corner right here. Okay, let's take that piece off. Okay, now I'm going to glue this bottom piece down right here. Now I'm sure you're asking, why didn't I glue it on the front? I didn't glue it on the front because I want it to be able to move around. If I'd glued it on the front, it wouldn't have the flexibility that I needed to have to be able to stretch. And I need it to be able to stretch. All right. All right, so these clamps are helping things to glue down, helping things to stay where I need them to stay. Okay, I got some underneath there. So don't be afraid to use clamps, you know, to help you get things. Looks like it's being attacked, doesn't it? Now, I've got these two that need to go down. Okay. Now, even though they're going to be glued down, I still want them, you know, underneath paper. I still want them glued separately. Okay, now the whole time I'm still checking here. Well, other than my clamps now being in the way, I should be okay for, now where did this go? Here it is. For the movement. So now I need to cut the paper for the inside. For here, I've cut a piece that's 3 inches wide and 7 inches long. Okay, so I've got that cut. I need to cut my paper for these two panels. So those two panels, I think I have enough of the birds. So I need to cut a piece of paper that's 5 by 7 for these two panels. So let's see. I'm pretty sure I do. So let's see here. Oh, maybe not. Let's mark it and see. I need a piece to cut here. Oh, I don't need it. I need 5. I need 5 inches wide. Good heavens, Lori. I need 2 pieces that are 5 inches wide. Shoot, that just cut it, didn't it? All right, so let's do this one. And then 7 inches long. Are we going to do 7? Yes, we are. Okay, let's try it this way. Okay, that way we get to keep our bird. So this piece is going to fit here. Okay, so this piece is going to fit here. So I am going to glue this whole piece down. Now you have a choice. If you like, I want this piece to go down first. Never mind, forget I said that. Because I want this underneath. I want this here. Okay, I've just put my centerpiece down and I'm working it into the folds. And I'm going to do the same on this side. I'm folding it up. Okay, I'm folding my book. This will get clamped across the top again. This piece will go across here. Like that. Needs to come over a little bit. Oh, no, no, no. Oh, dear. Okay, you need to work it down into the fold. Okay, and clamps go back on. So this time you probably are going to need more clamps. Because not only do you have this piece of paper on there, but you have the bottom piece of paper. Now, usually I'll take this and I will dry it flat. I'll just let it dry flat. Okay, now I'm going to take this side and I'm going to bend it. Okay, take all these off, because you're going to need them off for a minute. Okay, now we need to cut this piece to 5 inches wide. Oops, get off of there. And 7 inches long. And we're going to do the same thing. We're going to glue it just like we did the other side. Now, these pieces that we have left, we can use to decorate our book. And this is not the time to skimp on glue. This is not the time to say you don't need a lot of glue. Trust me, this is not the time. If you have any come out, just wipe it up. Okay, bend it back. And work it down. Okay, so now our book is covered. So now you have two options. You can either wrap it up in rubber bands and, you know, like we do with our fabric covered books, and let it dry like this, you know, in shape. Or you can take and dry it flat under some books. My preferred way of doing it is letting it dry flat. Most likely after a couple of minutes, I'll take these clamps off. I'll make sure everything is stuck down well, and then I will put it back under my mat with heavy books. And that's where it'll stay for probably the next day or so, or probably through tonight, until that I know it's completely dry, because there's a lot of glue on here and there's a lot of paper that has to dry very well indeed, before we can continue and before we can put our signatures in. So that's going to take some time. And so that nothing sticks, I'll put it in here, you know, because I don't want to stick it to my desk or anything. So I'll put it in here, and then I'll layer my books on top of it. So I want to thank you for joining me today and putting together our new 5x7 journal. I'm really excited about this, and I hope that you are too, and I hope that you join me and you make one. These are a fun size because, you know, they're not real big, and they don't take long to do. And we're just going to have 3 signatures, and we're going to pull signatures from magazine pages, and we're going to maybe put in a paper bag and some doilies and just whatever I have around the craft room. I'm not going to use cardstock for my pages. I'm just going to use whatever I have paper-wise. So it's going to be fun, you know, getting back to how I learned, and that's what I enjoy. So I think that's what we're going to do with this journal. We're going to get back to basics, and maybe that's what we'll call her, getting back to basics. I don't know. So until I see you again in our next video, where we'll get our signatures put in and we'll get started on this little cutie pie. Until I see you then, ta-ta for now.